Today we're going to talk about dealing with hard clients and hard situations. Everybody has this happen to them, and I'm going to tell you my solutions on how I've been able to deal with these hard situations without escalating them and by keeping my customers happy even when they're not happy.
You are the one I love, yeah, you are the one I love.
Alright, so the reality of running a business is that you are going to run into problem clients. You are a photography business. You are a business first and a photographer second. We're going to talk about how to minimize those problems and to deal with those problems without escalating them into something more. So a problem client can be a lot of different things. A problem client can be a bride that is very unhappy you lost part of their wedding, or you were late, or you didn't show up. Hopefully that's not the problem, but something and they're ready to sue you. Or it could be something as simple as someone who has turned a 1-session thing into a 3-session thing, and you're like, okay, we gotta dial this back. Now their senior session is 4 different parts on 4 different days. How do I make this go away? Your first job is to keep your cool always. I see so many people and have heard so many phone calls from my friends that are photographers or from different people in our photog blog that have come to me who have lost their cool on their clients. Your clients are going to come to you, and sometimes they're going to be threatening, sometimes they're going to be demeaning, they're going to say horrible things about your business. I've seen and heard so many different situations from different photographers. It doesn't matter what they say about your business. You still are going to be representing your brand and business in the way you respond, even if they are being horrible to you. I have had a person threaten to sue my business. I wasn't even working with this client because I worked with somebody else that they didn't like and they had problems with. And it was, a situation that definitely could have gotten crazy, but I kept my cool. And just because you keep your cool to them doesn't mean you can't, vent your frustrations to your husband or to your roommate or to your person. But don't go to the Facebook groups. Don't go to, blast them on the internet. I have seen just things blow up because people don't keep their cool. And that's hard. It's hard to keep your cool, but it's possible. So keep your cool. That's the first rule. The second rule is to be kind. Be kind. Sometimes it's their insecurities. Sometimes it's miscommunication. There's so many just things that can go wrong. You don't know why they're freaking out the way they are. And sometimes, and a lot of the time, it's not about you. And so if you can be kind and respond back with kindness, 99% of the time they're going to come back and say, I'm so sorry, I blew that out of proportion. I totally trust you, or da-da-da, whatever it is. Obviously, there's different situations and they're not all going to have happy endings, especially if you lose some of their images or you messed up in a big way. But a lot of the situations can be solved just with kindness. And that's my number one thing, as you can tell in our Photog Facebook group and in our photography here and our team. Kindness is very important to us. Let's give an example of a situation that could be handled by keeping your cool and being kind. So let's say that they left you a bad review because they felt like your images weren't very good, they weren't edited, they were unsharp, they were just ugly, they hated them. So we're gonna look at that first of all and be like, okay, I did what I said I was gonna do. If you said did everything in your contract, it's the same style as your website, everything matches, this happens all the time, you're gonna think, okay, you know what, they're probably insecure, they didn't like them because of, whatever reason for their own, it's on them because I did everything I said I was gonna do. So I'm gonna handle the situation with kindness instead of lashing back and saying, well, you shouldn't have showed up wearing that anyways, and why don't you even brush your hair? I've literally seen people blow up back at their clients and just unload on them. That's not your job. Your job is to keep your cool and say, I'm so sorry you felt that way. I did everything to the best of my ability and as per contract, blah, 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 blah. You keep it professional. Is there anything I can do to make you love these photos? For me, with me, and what I would do if someone was unhappy is I would definitely reshoot the session. I wouldn't charge them. I would do this because I want everyone to be happy. You do not have to do this because you did everything in your contract. So it's up to you. If that's not an option, if it's their wedding photos, for me what happened is one time I had an associate photographer that was not on our team, it was a backup associate, shoot a wedding, and the bride was not happy with the way they turned out. I think the real problem was that they weren't culled down very well, and so she got a lot of photos, a lot of mediocre photos, and there were a lot of gems in there, but she didn't see them because there was the half blinks and things that we normally would cull out, but they weren't caught because it was a backup associate. And she, only booked an hour. It was just like a courthouse thing. It was very simple, so it wasn't like she missed out on all these moments or anything. It was just that there was like 500 pictures for an hour, and you don't really have 500 great pictures in an hour. Anyone knows that. So anyways, what happened is she came to me and she was unhappy, and she came pretty mad at first, and I responded, kept my cool, responded with kindness. I'm so sorry. I will make this right with you. Like, what would it take to make you love these? I can offer you an album with your favorites. If you can pick your favorite 50, then I will get you a lay flat album that you can share just your favorite photos with your family, or I can re-edit them, or I can do this. And I gave them 3 options. And from those 3 options, she chose an album, and she came back and she said, I'm so happy with this. Thank you so much. These are treasured photos, da, da, da. And she ended up being completely happy because I heard her request, I kept my cool, I was kind, and I offered her something to make it right. The next step is to acknowledge that there is a problem. So obviously if there's a problem client, there's a problem, and whether you agree with the problem or not, you have to acknowledge it, because they believe that there's a problem. So option 1 is to refund the session or the fee or whatever and run away from the client. You can refund and run, never deal with them again. They're happy, they have their money back, they still have the photos, it's fine, it's done with, it's out of your life. Sometimes it's not worth fighting over the money. The second option is to re-edit the session. So a lot of times it's maybe their own insecurities, or it's their own weather, outfit choice, just something that's totally out of your control, and they hate the photos for one of those reasons. But if you offer to re-edit or reshoot the photos, they're gonna end with a positive experience from you because you did everything you can to make it right. And a lot of time that goes really a lot further than giving them their money back, because then they're gonna go and tell their friends, like, I did have a problem, but they fixed it and they respected that I had a problem and they made it right. So, and one other tip I wanna give for acknowledging a problem is sometimes the problem is that they're expecting a lot from your session. So for example, I had someone the other day in our photog blog email me and say, I have a client that wants this, which I can offer them in an hour, but then they also want this. So it's basically gonna be 2 sessions. Do I tell her that I can shoot longer, or do I tell her she needs to pay for 2 sessions? And so my tip to her is to always give 2 options. So if someone's coming to you and saying, okay, but I want this, oh, but I want to travel to St. George, and it's like, okay, great, well, we can do it in Cache Valley for $100, or if you want to do St. George, that's totally okay. It'll just be a $300 travel fee. And so you're never saying no, you're just giving them 2 options. Yes, we can totally do a senior session. So it sounds like you want this, this, and this, which would actually need to be an hour and a half instead of an hour, which would be this price. Or if you would rather do 2 sessions, we can break it up into 2 sessions and do 2 for $100. So there's ways to just gracefully tell someone, okay, no, we're not doing that, or yeah, yes, we can definitely do that. It just costs this, or it will just add this to your package. So that is my tips for, that's my tips for just making sure your clients stay happy when they're asking for more than what you offer. Those are my first 3 options: refund, reshoot, or re-edit the photos. But the 4th option is to offer them something in exchange. So like my album story that I offered them when they were unhappy and I couldn't reshoot their wedding, they ended up being happy because I offered them something in addition. A situation where I showed up late to a session because on my calendar it was at 5:30 and on their calendar it was at 5, and they were sitting there for 30 minutes waiting for me out of signal. They couldn't get a hold of me because we were way deep in the canyon, and I felt terrible once I got there because I didn't realize that I was late. They thought I was late, and anyways, it was just terrible. I hate making people upset, and obviously I want people to think that their session is important to me, because it is. And so after the session, I edited them that night, gave them back to them, was like, really positive with the interaction there. But then I offered them to pick their favorite picture out of the session and blow it up on a canvas, because I wanted them to not only realize that like it was my mistake and I feel terrible, but like I value your time, and that was important for me to be on time, and I didn't realize that I told them the wrong time. Anyways, it was terrible. So I gave them a canvas, and they came back to me the next year, even though I was 30 minutes late to their session, and it was so embarrassing. And even the next year, I apologized profusely for the year before, because it was just not in character for me to mess up that bad. So there are ways that you can fix the problem. You can give their money back, you can reshoot, re-edit, or you can offer something to add more value to their session. The next rule of having problem clients is it's okay to feel sad. I have had situations where it's completely not my fault. It's not my fault that somebody hates something. For example, there was one situation where she hated her makeup done by a professional makeup artist, and so she hated the photos. I thought the photos were beautiful. I did the session exactly like I would any other session. I did the exact same edit on it. All these different things, I did exactly the same, and I loved the photos, and I gave them back, and she hated them, and I couldn't figure out why until I realized she hated her makeup in them. And even though it wasn't my fault and I re-edited them, I even went through and became a professional makeup artist via the computer, made it right, sent them over to her, and then I cried. And it's okay to feel sad because sometimes it's really hard to have problem clients and they make you feel bad even though you did everything you possibly could. So don't feel like you can't, have a moment to just feel sad about it. But my best advice is to not go and publicly, shame them or put it in a Facebook group or, all that stuff goes back to the client. And even calling around your other photographer friends, I would never suggest sharing it with other people, except for the close people in your life, like your husband, or if you have a business partner, or if you have a roommate that you tell everything to, or a best friend. I think it's important to keep that just with your one person and not to spread it to others. Also, always get your payment up front. So I always require a deposit when they book and then the full session due before their session. When I still offer sessions and I don't get their payment, most of the time they're gonna cancel their session. If they haven't paid a deposit, then they're not as committed to showing up, being on time, showing up in the right outfits, all those things. So if they pay beforehand, they're gonna treat you better, they're gonna show up on time, and they're gonna value their session a lot more. Always communicate what to expect, what to wear, where to show up, location, how long it is, how many images are in your session. All those things are in my marketing class in the Our Photog Blog membership, which you can sign up for below. I talk about my client experience and how my communication is one of the key elements to creating happy customers, happy experiences throughout the whole thing, and great word of mouth. But communication is key in creating situations where they don't have anything to wonder or to assume because you've told them everything in advance. The last rule of dealing with problem clients is that some people will never be happy. So ways to avoid problem clients is, first of all, do not give discounts, even to close friends or acquaintances that you are in the same church with or play groups. Don't give discounts because those people are not going to treat you and value you the same as people who pay your full price. Second, always use contracts. Always, always, always use contracts. We suggest using contracts from the Law Talk or Legal Page. They are amazing. They are great contracts to help you be legit and to make sure that you're covered on all your bases. So when you do run into a problem client, you aren't going to lose everything or have them come after you for things that are in your contract and out of your control. Lastly, make sure to trust your gut. A lot of times you can feel when a client isn't going to mesh with you or might turn into a problem client. They're not going to be happy. You can't make everybody happy. So if you're having those feelings about someone, it's okay to walk away from that session and to refer them to someone else. But it's not worth going down that road if you know that you're never going to make them happy from the beginning. So these are my tips on creating happy clients and customers. And hopefully when you run into your next problem client, you can go down this little list and make sure to keep them happy and to not escalate the situation into something that it should not and hopefully will never be.
You're the one I love.